You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hello, and welcome to the Sport Horse Podcast. I'm Nicole Lakin.
And I'm Tim Worden, and this is an episode that covers important points around performance monitoring.
Yeah, this is we actually had a really fun time recording this episode with David Deillon. It is talking about the use of data to analyze and better understand performance and other components of training. And it's a really cool one that I think it's worth a listen for everybody, rider, trainer, veterinarian, physiotherapist, because, David is just sort of starting to scratch the surface with what can be done with all this data, and how to empower, all of us with the information. We had a really fun time, talking to him about what's to come and what he's done so far.
David is a former professional show jumping rider who has competed to the highest levels within the Swiss team. Among his highest career achievements, he participated 3 times at the CHI Geneva, at the CSIO in Linz and Copenhagen, and the Swiss elite jumping team. He also was at the Junior and Young Rider European Championships. In 2016, he founded Alogo Analysis, a Swiss company specializing in equestrian analytics providing data services. Their objectives have always been to thread a path to improve the interaction between horses and riders, to provide transparent decisions, and enhance the understanding of equestrian sports beauty and challenges. Hi, David, and welcome to the Sport Horse Podcast.
Hi, Tim. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
So it's kind of a cool episode because around this time last year, all 3 of us were actually together. We got together near Ottawa in Canada, and we went to a little I guess I'll call it a seminar where we each gave talks, and then there was a little bit of a fundraiser afterwards, and it was really nice to spend time together. So it's great to see you again on this call. As part of that seminar, you came over, David, and you gave a talk about the technology that you developed, Alogo Move Pro. Can you discuss a little bit about that technology and how it works, and the types of people who are currently using it?
Sure. Yes. So the product is composed of two different products, if I can say. So the hardware part and the platforms. First, the hardware is a custom hardware that we have developed internally, which is collecting every little movement or behavior of a horse. It's very simple. It's very high accurate. It has been scientifically validated. And also used in some scientific publications now. And once the data are collected, so they are analyzed on different platforms. So you can have access into it by a smartphone or a computer, tablet, whenever you want. And this is really for the data interpretation. So we use machine learning algorithms that can give some specific insights, personalized reports about what you have done, how the horse is acting, behaving. For example, we have some recommendations to give to the athletes if the horse is starting to unbalance more in the front, or for jumpers, for example, we give some we analyze the stood out jumps automatically. And a bunch of other data. So what I can say is that this device can be used in competition as well, and for the first time, so we can give to the athletes or to the scientists a tool that can record data in the field, so in competition environment, but also on daily use. And I can say also that it's a clinical grade device that can be used everywhere, actually.
That's really cool. I think one of the things that a lot of, at least our veterinarian listeners, are experienced with are the the lameness locator devices and the devices that are looking at asymmetries. And, this device is a little bit different because it does evaluate asymmetries, but it's also, like you said, able to be used in competition, in training, in all of these different circumstances, which I think lends a really cool opportunity to collect a distinctly different group of data, and also lend more to the preventative component of lameness evaluation and understanding of asymmetries. So I think that's something, sort of unique and cool about this device. And along those lines, I know that you presented some of your work with the Move Pro during the Dublin Horse Show Puissance competition during the ISEL meeting in August, which we were also all together for that. So this is our second little reunion. How do you envision technology such as these being utilized in competition moving forward? And maybe you can also share with us a little bit like how it did work at the Dublin Horse Show at this event and some of the insights that you saw.
Yes, of course. So I do believe that we will use more and more technology in our sports, like you can see on other sports. If we make the parallel with other sports, you can see that technology is used for first entertainment, but also for rules. And when I speak about entertainment, it's really to make the crowd more interested into our sport, or for the journalist also, because they are used to have some data in soccer, in basketball, or other team players sports. But for Dublin, for example, they ask us to come to really entertain the crowd between the rounds when during the puissance, because they say that usually they do Mexican waves, or they try to to make how they can to make people wait for the next round. And so we came with the technology to bring more insights about how horses are jumping the wall. So, for instance, we were automatically selecting the rider and the horse who went the faster to the jump, or jumped the highest, or having the longest stride lengths. Yeah, we pick few metrics, and then it was automatically highlighted on the big screen arena. And the speaker were using those data to entertain the public. So the feedback was really good, because some people of the public and the riders came to our booth, and then they find it very interesting. They ask us how we did it, which technology it was. And also, usually the feedback we have from journalists from one year to another one is that they don't want to go back, without the statistics or without data. They really want to continue, or ask us, what do you have something new this year? And that's really motivating. For Dublin, what was also very interesting for us is that we went to each riders before the class. We explained to them what it is, why is it good also for sports, and we have somebody from the organizing committee who was with us, and everybody was in. Actually, I was really surprised, because they really want our sports to move forward, to be more modern, and so that's why every riders use it during the whole puissance competition.
Perfect. And like you mentioned the entertainment aspect, and I think that is really exciting. Like I'm a huge fan of the sports, obviously. Like I really want to see them to continue to grow and to innovate. And I think that like equestrian sport is really cool. It's the only Olympic sport where you have like the horse aspect coming in. And like, I think in a lot of ways, there's still so much to learn and so much more that we can discover. And the technology, I think, will play a big role. but yeah, like just like hearing about like how other sports leverage technology. I was years ago talking to someone who was involved in taking like the NBA and expanding it to like more of the Asian type countries. So sort of leaving or leading that push. And they were saying that like when they look at the broadcast numbers, every time they introduce more data into broadcast, that they automatically see like a viewership bump. And then, it kind of like fizzles out over time. Like once people get used to it, and then they introduce more data, and again, they get another bump. And so I think that, bringing technology into the ring, like there's so much that we can learn from it. And then just, it gives the commentators another weapon to talk about, right? Because like right now they don't really have so much. They can talk about breeding, they can talk about like how they perceive someone to ride to a jump, but like the technology would just add so much. So I think that's really exciting.
I had a conversation recently also with somebody who I told them what I do, and they were very curious, and they said, so if I'm watching a competition, how do I know who's good? And how do I know when it's the horse's fault or the rider's fault? And I was trying to explain like sort of simple things to identify. But when we're looking at the top levels of sport, I think that's where it becomes more nuanced, and where if you don't have an educated eye, it becomes harder and harder to explain. So it's really powerful stuff on that entertainment component and making it more accessible. And I know too that you've done some cool stuff with like overlaying data with video. I know back in grad school, I did a project where I interviewed somebody involved with an NHL hockey team. And we were talking about innovation in ice hockey and how things like augmented reality for people who are sitting in the stands combined with data could be a really powerful way to help people understand more, what's happening and who the players are and what their skill levels are and everything. So much exciting opportunity and potential there.
Exactly. And I just want to also speak about the second topic where technology can be used is about the rules, which is, in my opinion, very important in an equine world because of the animal, and especially now there is a huge topic about the animal welfare, well-being, and it's something that we are already testing, not to add a rule, but to help judges, especially in cross country, taking decisions. Not only based on the video or sometimes it's only on radio. They just have some fans judges that are just speaking on the radio and say, oh, I think that and I think we can bring some added value by bringing data to help officials taking some decisions. And it's really important to differentiate that we don't aim or claim to replace the judges. It's really a tool like the VAR. I think in soccer we have it in Europe. So it's still the judge who take the decision at the end. But then you have those tools who help you with this.
Yeah, for sure. And just for everyone listening at home, I just want to like reiterate that like the technology itself is really easy to use. Like I work with some people who use the device, and maybe David, I'll throw it over to you to like give a bit more insight. But like my one buddy, he uses it quite a bit. Like he on his jumping girth, he's just like, he ended up stitching like a little holder for the Alogo. So you go down to the ring, you just slide the device in, Velcro it on, and then you hit a button and you go. And so I think that sometimes there's this idea, especially with those earlier wearable devices that came out, you had wires running everywhere, and it really wasn't user friendly. Like nothing was wireless, and like everything was a bit clunky, but like things are getting sleeker and sleeker and smaller, and it's becoming a lot easier to use.
Yeah, that's one of the thing that I wanted to be mandatory when I created the product is like Nicole said, you have other veterinarian great devices, if I can say so. We are not competing with them because what they do is really great. It's a great job. It's here for many years. There are some new technologies around that as well. I saw it. We are not at the same category, and we aim that the riders use it almost every day, if possible every day, so that they can have insight and embrace the technology. And in our opinion, the technology must be easy to use and don't need to bother the riders in their journey.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think, we chatted just briefly before hopping on this podcast. And I think the one thing I'm getting more and more excited about, I'm a big data guy for sure. I think everyone on this call is. I know Nicole has a few big projects right now looking at data as well. But on the human side, there's more and more of an acknowledgement now that really wearables are an incredibly useful tool to understand like what the human body is doing day in and day out. And if you think about all of those like physical activity recommendations that exist in the world right now, like those used to be collected in these like huge studies where you'd give every participant a workbook, and it was at the end of the day, you sit down and you write, like I went to the gym and I was doing high intensity work for this amount of time, and then maybe medium intensity and low intensity. But now that we have wearables and we can actually track what people are doing, we're starting to learn that what people were reporting wasn't very accurate at all. We tend to overestimate the amount of high intensity work that we do, and we tend to underestimate the amount of low intensity work, just because, for a lot of people, we're sort of walking throughout the day, just, going up and down stairs in our house, or, going for a quick walk, or even just into the backyard or wherever. So I'd be curious to hear sort of your thoughts on how like the Move Pro can open up a whole new world of information for riders, and then also just to share like the riders who are currently using the device, like what sort of things are really meaningful to them.
Yes, sure. First, if I come back to when you were speaking about the fact that we need to be careful about the data not overwhelming ourselves, or the riders. I think in our sports, as we had almost nothing or nothing so far, the whole economy or ecosystem was created around the fact that there is no fact or no data. I'm sure you agree about when you want to sell a horse, buy a horse, or trainings or trainers that only base their advice or recommendation on their own feeling or own eyes. So I think it should start now to bring more data into the equine world. That doesn't mean that we need to do anything or bringing too much information, of course, but we really need to start bringing science and facts about the behavior of the horse, and there is also an education to be done to the riders, to the coach events, because I hear a lot of times some misunderstanding about what is a stride length, because this is something that we give to the riders, and they misunderstand the stride length, the amplitude, the push off, and something very simple and very basic. But I think this is also because of everything was just transmitted like not the word of mouth, but like somebody hears something, then say something to another person, etc., but without any facts, without necessarily with science. So in my opinion, it's really important that now riders start to be aware of the science and what has been done so far and what they can do with the technology. So coming to your to your question, I would say that the first thing we recommend to our riders, or even myself, because I'm a rider and I'm using the device on my horses first, is to be aware of your data or your parameters, because each rider is different, each horse is different. So the first thing is, okay, take the sensor, go canter, use it right as usual, and then look what is your stride length, what is your balance. And this is the first thing that some riders come to me and say, oh, I didn't know that my horse was doing so long stride, or maybe the opposite, or and I think that's just be aware of what you are doing. And then I ask them, okay, now try to change something, try to change your balance, your body balance, and see the effect of your horse and on the data. And then you can also on the third part, so after that, so you can take decisions out of that when you know what your data are meaning and you are used to the data. So I have a very simple example on myself and also some riders who reported to me when I was riding my horse, and I had the feeling he was really worse than yesterday. And I was already planning in my head, okay, the day after he need to go out riding or lounge or doing something else. And when I looked at the data, the stride pattern, so the stride length, the balance, everything was exactly the same. So maybe 1 or 2 centimeter difference, but I mean it was exactly the same. So then I changed my plan according to those data and give my horse to my wife for a dressage course. And she said he was perfect. He was really good. So it can goes, in both ways. Either it can validate your feeling or it can challenge your feeling. And I think this can be sometimes disturbing for a rider's point of view, but that's the way you can use, or our customers are using the data.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that I just want to take a minute and sit with. I think that there is definitely criticism and pushback on using data and some of these devices in our sport that's so heavily based on tradition and feeling and horsemanship. And those pieces are so important, and they're never going to be replaced. There's no technology that's ever going to be replaced. But an expert that I listen to a lot on sort of the markets and technology and what's evolving, and the impact technology is having on different industries, said something that really stuck with me. And I think that it applies here as well, is that, for example, AI right now, no one can stop talking about it. It's amazing. It's terrible. It's scary. It's exciting. And it's going to change industries and eliminate jobs and all these things. And what he says, and I think that this applies really well here, and I believe it's true. AI is not going to replace your job. Somebody who learns to use AI to do your job more efficiently, more consistently, more accurately, that person's going to come take your job. So I think that this applies very much here as these technologies become more available and the data becomes more useful and impactful in the ways that you're describing. It's not going to replace what's worked for all these years, but the person who learns to use that well to make themselves and their horses better, that person's going to replace you. That person's going to surpass you. So I just think it's a really important thing for people to try and understand when they're evaluating new technology and the potential that it can have, on the micro level, on you and your horse, and then on the macro level, in terms of the entire sport.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if you want some examples on how our customers are using it, I mean, you can use it how you want. Some of them are using it only in competition. They say, okay, I just want to track how my horse is doing in high level competitions, and then we have some national federations who use it for the preparation, before a big event. So on the team training, on giving insights to their riders, Olympic riders, and some riders are like me. They use it every day to fine tune their feeling, and there is no limit how you can use it. And the most important thing, like you said, is to not forget what you have learned, what you are doing actually, because you are still, I mean, at the end you are still alone in the field arena, when you when you need to jump. But at least for me, it's something that reassure myself, to have all those insights to have after the for example, the competition. You have the video, and then now you have the data, so you cannot see everything with the video, but all together, the coach, the vet, the grooms, the data makes that you have a bigger context about what was happening, and then you can fine-tune your analysis and you're right, and then going to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I could literally go on for hours, but I know you're super busy. So we have one last question for you, David, and it's one that we ask all of our guests. And it is that if you could speak directly to a horse and they could understand you, what would you want to tell them, or what would you want that horse to know?
So it's an interesting question. I will say that it's more the opposite that I would like. It's it's not that the speak need to understand from me, but I would like the host to speak to me like I'm speaking to you, and I think it will. That could be my dream of having a host explaining what he think especially when you ride, and because now you feel you see the horse look, I mean, you look the ears or the behavior of the horse, and you try to guess, but it will be a little bit easier if you get the voice of the horse telling you what he thinks, what is happening. And I have I don't know if it's a stupid example, but on my side, when I see a deeper distance, when I'm cantering with when I'm jumping with my horse, I want to hold him, but my trainers say, no, just don't hold him, let him do it. And I'm thinking, okay, if the horse can tell me, no, let me do it, my job,
No, that's a great example.
Nice.
And I think that with Alogo, you're definitely making strides towards giving them more of a voice. So really exciting what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much.
So just a great episode with David. Like first and foremost, he's just a really good individual. So it's always nice to chat with him. Really, really fun guy. And there are two things that I just love about his approach to building this company, building this technology. The first is that he is so engaged on the scientific validation side. I think often there's a lot of pressure you've gone through all this time and all these resources of creating this product, and I think sometimes people are just really quick to try to go straight to market and sometimes make claims that aren't yet supported, versus David is being very diligent in working with really high quality researchers from around the world to make sure that the system works as it should, to validate it against those gold standard systems out there. So I have a huge amount of respect for him for doing that. And then also similar to us, he's really passionate about growing the sport, and he talked about the entertainment piece on this call. And I think that as we discuss, like these types of technologies have such an important role to play in growing the accessibility of the sport and allowing people to understand what is going on when they watch competitors in the ring. So super, super fascinating. And I really enjoyed this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And building on the entertainment factor, I have to tell a fun story about the first time the three of us got together, which you mentioned earlier in the episode, Tim. But after we all gave presentations, there was a fun block party, and after a drink or two, I think David challenged me to a bull riding.
Yeah, I
don't
think
remember
so. Yeah.
exactly how it went down. And I was super cocky after a drink or two. And he wiped the floor with me. I'm just not gonna beat around the bush. We then had the opportunity to again see him at the ISEL conference in Utrecht, where he was really like the life of the party at a silent disco. So David's a fun guy, and it's always fun to get together with him. But on a more serious note, I just want to one last time reiterate that point that, David, I think, made really well, is that, technology is not here to replace tradition and, feeling and the things that you could only really gain through experience and just trying things. It's here to complement it and elevate it and also to make things a little more accessible. Not everybody has regular access to high level training all the time or can afford to have that access. So empowering people with more information, as long as they understand how to use it for good, is a positive in my eyes. Obviously, data being misused is never positive, but as I said earlier, in looking at these technologies and being fearful about them, the people that are going to rise to the top are the ones that are going to take the time to learn the technology and learn how to use it and use it to do their job or if riding is more of a hobby, whatever it is, to do the thing they're trying to accomplish a little bit more efficiently, effectively, consistently, and hopefully a little bit better. So with that, you can find the links to today's guests and the show notes at www.sporthorsepodcast.com. Please take a minute to go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sport Horse Series. Also, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, if you haven't yet, just go ahead and give us a follow. Leaving a review is also really helpful. It helps other people to find the podcast. So we appreciate if you could take a minute to do that. You can have all 20 plus shows of the Horse Radio Network with you wherever you go with our free app for iPhone and Android. Just go to the App Store and search Horse Radio Network. And here's to keeping your sport horse happy and healthy.